Hi guys, this is the short video lecture on image details and description. I want you to refer back to the Elements of Craft handout that was that was attached to the course module introducing the Elements of Craft. Actually, if you can, you should probably print it out and take notes on that, or take notes in a notebook. Today we're going to right now in this video we're going to focus on image details and description. So this slide is actually from my English 100 class, and this focuses on basically provides the same information that is on your Elements of Craft handout. So imagery, details, and description. These are tools that we use to aid in the telling of a story. And when you break down image and description, you can break it down into imagery and description, imagery and imagination, then concrete and significant details, description and sensory details are another one. But also within this are figures of speech and literary devices. On your Elements of Craft sheet, I should have one, I don't. There are several figures of speech and literary devices mentioned, such as metonymy. Figures of speech, you can use figures of speech, but there's a time and a place to do it. Most of these you're probably not going to think about very often. Metaphor and similes you'll probably use, but you need to be careful because your writing must always be original, and a lot of times some of the metaphors and similes that students use are actually cliches. You never want to use cliches. You want your writing to always be fresh, unique, and imaginative. So the crux of imagery, description, and details are that you want to use these elements in a way that aids the reader in picturing the story, in imagining the story, the setting. That being said, you don't want to overuse them. You want to provide the reader with the details, imagery, and description that are necessary for them to understand what you're trying to show them. That being said, there are some times where you can use just generalized descriptions. After this lecture, when you read the chapter on image by Burroway, which is attached in, it should be the next course module or the one after that, Burroway will detail the differences between concrete and significant details, generalizations, and abstractions. There's also another reading on description by Tim Tomlinson that's really great too, that you're going to read this week. So I'm going to give you this example that's from Stephen King's On Writing, which my students read in English 100. I forget exactly where it is in the book, but when he discusses details, description, and imagery, he provides this example. So, and I want you guys to picture this. So there is a table. Picture a table with a red tablecloth. On top of that table is a cage. Inside that cage is a white rabbit. And painted on the side of the white rabbit is is the number 8 drawn in blue ink. Now, in this situation, the important detail is the number 8 drawn on the rabbit's side. So that is what you would want to describe in detail, because you want the reader to really get get a clear picture of what that number 8 looks like. You also might want to describe the rabbit in detail so that they get a clear picture of the rabbit. But the table is not necessarily that important. You don't need to you don't need to describe the table in detail. The red tablecloth is not necessarily that important. We all know what a table looks like. We all know what a red tablecloth looks like. Same thing with a cage. We all know what a cage looks like. So the important element in that scene is the rabbit and the number 8 drawn on its side. The other stuff is not really that important. So your job as the writer is to figure out which details you need to give the reader so that they get a clear picture of what you want them to see. Now, one of the best ways to do this is to give sensory details. So details and description, it creates a clear image, and also one of the best ways to hook a reader and to pull them into your story is to use sensory details. We all attach memories and emotions to certain sensory stimuli, such as smell's a huge one, taste, touch, and also seeing and hearing something. So sensory details can be a great way for you to trigger emotions and memories in the reader, but to also manipulate their perception. And a great exercise that, if you want to get some practice with this, maybe we'll actually do this semester, is to just go and observe something. Watch two people talking at a restaurant, or two people, walking down the street and talking, or even go out and observe nature. But when you conceptualize it at the act of using imagery, details, and description as you're observing something and you want the reader to get a clear picture of what you're observing, that's a fantastic way to show the reader what you want them to see. And that's really the purpose of imagery. Another part of this is using details to create a larger picture. So instead of, right now I could go all over the place, I could look around my office here at eTown and tell you exactly what it looks like. Or I could pick out a few important, unique details to help you feel what the office might look like. I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. Hold on. Okay, to demonstrate image, details, and description, I'm going to read you one paragraph from the first chapter of White Noise by Don DeLillo. I read this first chapter in English 100 to demonstrate image, details, and description along with analysis of the first chapter of The Great Gatsby. But I just want to read you this one paragraph. All right. I left my office and walked down the hill and into town. There are houses in town with turrets and two-story porches where people sit in the shade of ancient maples. There are Greek Revival and Gothic churches. There's an insane asylum with an elongated portico, ornamented dormers, and a steeply pitched roof topped by pineapple finial. Babette and I and our children by previous marriages live at the end of a quiet street in what was once a wooded area with deep ravines. There is an expressway beyond the backyard now, well below us, and at night as we settle into our brass bed, the sparse traffic washes past, a remote and steady murmur around our sleep, as of dead souls babbling at the edge of a dream. Okay, so in that paragraph, the details, description, and imagery all focus on creating a picture of the setting. So there aren't any descriptions of the characters. We don't find out what Babette or the children by previous marriages look like. The description is all focused on these small details of the town. The way the insane asylum looks, the deep ravines in the expressway, the porches on the houses in town. So we're not overloaded with detail and imagery and description, but DeLillo gives us a few choice details that help us create a larger picture. And that's the way that imagery, details, and description work. You don't want to describe everything down to the smallest detail. You want to give the reader just what they need to see what you want them to see. And when you do the prompted story number 1 at the end of the week, I'm actually going to give you a photograph, and you are going to write the story of what is going on in the photograph. So a lot of the imagery, details, and description will already be there for you. You just need to put them into words. And that's kind of a good way of figuring out which details in imagery are important, because you don't want to overly describe, because you'll lose the reader then. You want them to get a clear picture, and then you want to move on to the action. Next week, We're going to start focusing on style, language, and voice, but we're also going to still discuss imagery, details, and description a lot. So this is something that's going to make more sense as we move through the next 2 weeks.